Welcome to the Daily Horror Habit Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Krieger, bringing you daily reviews of currently streaming horror movies for your twisted pleasure. Be aware that these reviews may include mild spoilers. And as always, I hope you enjoy. Over the course of the last 2 years, I have fundamentally rewired the way I talk about movies. I used to pile on bad movies, like a lot, to an unnecessary degree, something that I go out of my way to avoid doing now. While I obviously never shy away from critiquing films that I don't enjoy, highlighting their faults and shortcomings, the venomous bite I used to purposefully employ, I veered away from. It's part of why I mainly highlight films I enjoy for Daily Horror Habit, as it's far more constructive and generally fun to review or chat with others about movies we enjoy. Sometimes I think people lose sight that their scathing and strangely personal lambasting of a film which real people put their time and effort into making. You should never ever shy away from expressing your true feelings on a film. There are a heck of a lot of underwhelming movies out there, but you should never lose sight of the reality that people don't set out to make bad movies. And One Cut of the Dead channels this ethos in a way you'd never expect it to. Confounding isn't typically the desired first impression that most films set out to make. And yet it's the only way to accurately describe One Cut of the Dead's opening 37-minute sequence. It feels amateurish, contrived, and seemingly represents the very bottom of the undead barrel. And that's the point of it. Written and directed by Shin Ichiro Ueda, One Cut of the Dead, which is currently streaming on Shudder, opens on the set of a bare-bones budget zombie movie filming within a decrepit World War II biological testing facility. The actors are subsequently attacked by actual zombies to the film director's delight, as he believes it will elicit more authentic performances. The longer this seemingly inane opening sequence continues, the more the audience feels as if they're the butt of an awkward joke. It all feels amateurish, with frequent dialogue pauses, random character actions, and laughably simplistic practical effects. And as we will learn, this is the entire point of the film. This unbroken 37-minute sequence comes to a sudden end as the credits roll and the audience learns that they've been watching yet another movie within a movie. Zombified Inception, if you will. And this is where the genre-defying nuances of One Cut of the Dead come to light. The remaining hour of the film completely shifts gears, rewinding the clock a month before the opening sequence was shot. The tone of the film noticeably shifts from lo-fi horror to equal parts comedy and family drama. The audience is formally introduced to the director, who's hired to create a one-shot zombie film broadcasted in real time. This means no mistakes, no reshoots, and no do-overs. Hilarity ensues at the expense of the ragtag band of filmmakers who attempt to achieve a seemingly impossible task. And now for a brief intermission. If you've been enjoying this episode of Daily Horror Habit, please take a moment to subscribe to the show on your preferred streaming platform or leaving a review on iTunes. And thank you for your continued support, which drives the show's success. And now, without further ado, let's get back to today's horrifying episode. This provides countless laughs, but more importantly, providing vital context for the film's opening sequence. The audience is then given a first-hand tour of the numerous and hilarious challenges that went into making this seemingly run-of-the-mill zombie sequence. We see firsthand how vital the jarring subversion of the audience's expectations is to the entire experience of One Cut of the Dead. Being walked through the painstaking process that goes into every inch of making the film, from casting to rehearsal to how things continually change, at a moment's notice. This provides hilarious context for the opening chapter's awkward and seemingly nonsensical moments as the behind-the-scenes chaos is revealed. At its core, One Cut of the Dead is a love letter to filmmaking. It illuminates that even the most seemingly mundane aspects of creating horror films are incredibly complicated and are always seconds away from disaster. It also provides a self-reflection of sorts, as it makes a point of impressing upon the viewer that no one sets out to make a bad movie. And while One Cut of the Dead hurls numerous comedic hurdles at the crew's expense, such as unimaginable production and casting snafus, the point remains: no one sets out to make a bad movie. For every ill-conceived creative decision or poorly cast role, often, those involved had the best of intentions. It's a film that feels as if it was specifically made to defy those who march to the mantra that it's easy to make a bad movie. After having spent the last hour learning the context for the film's somewhat bizarre opening sequence, it only makes sense to go back and to rewatch it. This proved to be both surreal and hilarious, as having the context behind each actor's awkward pause or random dialogue choice made it far more enjoyable on a rewatch. It's quite an intense 37 minutes on a rewatch, given we're watching systematic chaos unfold at every turn. We're also more invested in these characters after learning about the lengths they've gone to bring this zombie flick to life. As One Cut of the Dead purposefully plays into genre tropes, the idea that anyone watches it completely cold is relatively unrealistic. Unless you're a hardcore horror fan, those not immediately entertained by its lo-fi beginning segment may abandon the film long before experiencing its big and rewarding twist. I find that all recommendations of One Cut of the Dead must contain a caveat or two to the effect of, stick with it, it's going somewhere great. While a heads up about the film's true construction may dispel some of the twist's magic, I'd rather audiences know this is building to something terrific, rather than them abandoning it altogether. With One Cut of the Dead, Shin Ichiro Ueda has meticulously crafted a genre-defying zombie comedy that's as hilarious as it is personable. It's a reflection on filmmaking as a whole, while also serving as a love letter to an often dismissed genre. This is a must-watch film for horror and zombie fans alike, as well as aspiring filmmakers, while never completely alienating fans less in love with the genre. And that'll do it for another episode of Daily Horror Habit. I'll see you guys next week for more daily horror movie reviews. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Daily Horror Habit on your preferred streaming service and follow @Daily Horror Habit on Instagram and @Daily Horror Pod on Twitter.